There are moments that quietly change the direction of a life, moments that arrive not with noise, but with truth. What you choose to give your attention to can either drain you or awaken you. These minutes are not about information alone. They're about remembering who you are and what you deserve to become. Every lesson learned, every pause taken, every insight received has the power to realign your spirit and sharpen your vision. Time is precious, and when it is invested with intention, it becomes a gift to your future self, opening doors to clarity, courage, and possibility you may have forgotten were yours. Time is the only currency every human being is given equally, yet the results it produces are wildly different. The difference is never how much time you have, but how you invest it. Every minute you spend is a seed planted into the future, whether you are aware of it or not. When time is spent without intention, it disappears silently, leaving behind confusion, regret, and a sense of being behind. When time is invested wisely, it compounds, shaping your thoughts, your habits, and ultimately your identity. Life does not suddenly change in one dramatic moment. It shifts through small, deliberate choices repeated consistently. Wise investment of time begins with awareness. You start noticing where your hours actually go instead of where you think they go, scrolling without purpose, conversations that drain rather than uplift, routines that keep you busy but not fulfilled. Awareness creates discomfort, but it is a necessary discomfort because it forces honesty. Once you see the truth, you gain the power to choose differently. You begin to protect your time the same way you protect something valuable, because you understand that once it is gone, it cannot be recovered or replaced. When time is invested wisely, it aligns your actions with your values. You stop reacting to everything around you and start responding with intention. Instead of letting the world decide how your day unfolds, you decide what deserves your energy. This shift may feel subtle, but it changes everything. You begin to notice that peace increases, clarity sharpens, and progress becomes visible. The mind becomes calmer when it knows its efforts are moving towards something meaningful rather than scattered in every direction. Wise use of time also builds discipline, and discipline builds freedom. At first, discipline feels restrictive because it asks you to say no to comfort and distraction. But over time, it creates space for growth, confidence, and self-respect. Each time you honor your time, you reinforce the belief that your life matters. You stop abandoning yourself for short-term pleasure and start investing in long-term fulfillment. This creates momentum, and momentum creates belief in your ability to change. When you invest time wisely, you begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer someone waiting for motivation or perfect circumstances. You become someone who takes responsibility for the direction of their life. Even on difficult days, you understand that showing up for a few focused minutes is better than doing nothing at all. Progress stops being about intensity and starts being about consistency. The small daily actions, repeated without applause, slowly reshape your character. Time invested wisely strengthens your inner world, reading instead of mindless consumption, reflection instead of constant noise, learning instead of complaining. These choices feed the mind and steady the emotions. You begin to respond to challenges with patience rather than panic. You develop the ability to sit with discomfort, knowing it is temporary and often necessary for growth. This inner strength becomes visible in the way you speak, the way you listen, and the way you carry yourself. As time is invested with intention, your future starts meeting you halfway. Opportunities appear not because of luck, but because preparation creates readiness. People begin to trust you more because your actions are consistent. You trust yourself more because you keep promises to yourself. This self-trust becomes the foundation for confidence, allowing you to take risks without fear of losing yourself in the process. Wise time investment also teaches you the value of rest. Rest is not wasted time when it is chosen consciously. It restores clarity, sharpens focus, and prevents burnout. The difference is rest that renews versus rest that numbs. One prepares you for growth, the other delays it. Knowing when to pause and when to push is a skill developed through self-awareness and respect for your own limits. Over time, the results become undeniable. Your days feel purposeful rather than rushed. Your goals feel reachable rather than distant. You are no longer chasing time. You are directing it. The person you are becoming is shaped quietly by how you spend ordinary moments, the choices made when no one is watching, the commitment to use each hour as a building block rather than an escape. Every wise investment adds another layer to the life you are creating, shaping a future that reflects discipline, intention, and self-belief, moment by moment, decision by decision, becoming someone who understands that transformation is not sudden, but earned through how time is honored every single day. Your life moves in the direction of what you give your attention to, whether you realize it or not. Attention is not just focus, it is energy, intention, and commitment combined. Whatever repeatedly occupies your mind begins to shape your thoughts, and your thoughts quietly influence your decisions. Many people feel lost not because they lack ability or opportunity, but because their attention is scattered across too many things that do not serve their growth. When attention is uncontrolled, life feels reactive, chaotic, and exhausting. Every day, countless demands compete for your attention. Notifications, opinions, comparisons, fears, memories, and expectations all pull at you, each one asking to be prioritized. If you do not consciously choose where your attention goes, it will be claimed by the loudest or easiest option. Over time, this leads to drifting instead of direction. You may stay busy, yet feel unfulfilled. You may move constantly, yet feel stuck. Attention determines not just what you see, but who you become. When attention is focused, clarity begins to form. You start noticing patterns in your behavior and outcomes. You see which thoughts empower you and which weaken you. Focused attention brings awareness, and awareness brings choice. Instead of reacting automatically, you pause and decide what deserves your mental energy. This pause is powerful because it interrupts old habits and creates space for intentional action. Direction is born in these small moments of awareness. What you consistently focus on grows stronger. When attention is fixed on problems, fear expands. When attention is fixed on progress, confidence develops. This does not mean ignoring reality, but choosing what you feed your mind daily. The mind becomes trained by repetition. If you repeatedly focus on limitations, the mind learns to expect failure. If you repeatedly focus on effort and learning, the mind adapts to growth. Attention becomes the steering wheel of your inner world. Attention also shapes emotional strength. When you allow your focus to be controlled by negativity, comparison, or past pain, emotions become unstable. You feel pulled backward or sideways instead of forward. But when attention is anchored in purpose, emotions settle. You stop being easily triggered because your focus is no longer scattered. Emotional discipline begins with mental discipline, and mental discipline begins with attention. Direction requires sacrifice, and sacrifice begins with attention. You cannot move forward while constantly looking sideways. Every meaningful path demands that you say no to distractions that do not align with your goals. This is not about isolation or rigidity. It is about respect for your energy. When attention is respected, progress becomes possible. You begin to notice that fewer things control your mood and fewer opinions control your choices. The quality of your relationships is also shaped by attention. When you are present, listening fully, and engaged intentionally, connections deepen. When attention is divided, relationships weaken. The same is true with goals. Half-focused effort produces half-lived results. Direction requires full presence, even in small actions. Doing one thing with full attention is more powerful than doing many things with none. Attention determines direction by shaping habits. What you pay attention to daily becomes routine, and routine becomes identity. If attention is constantly on comfort, the habit of avoidance forms. If attention is on discipline, the habit of consistency forms. Identity is not chosen in one moment. It is built through repeated focus. Over time, you become someone who naturally moves toward what you value because your attention has trained you to do so. When attention is reclaimed, time feels different. Hours feel purposeful instead of empty. You stop feeling overwhelmed because your mind is no longer jumping between endless concerns. Focus simplifies life. It reduces noise and sharpens priorities. You begin to understand that direction is not about speed, but alignment. Slow progress with focused attention moves you farther than fast movement without clarity. The world will always compete for your attention, but direction belongs to those who choose where to place it. Every shift in focus is a step toward a different future. Attention is subtle, yet powerful. It shapes how you think, how you feel, how you act, and how you grow. Where you place your attention today is quietly deciding who you will be tomorrow, influencing every choice, every habit, every outcome, guiding your life forward through moments that seem small but carry lasting weight. Small insights often arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, yet they carry the power to reshape an entire life. They are not dramatic breakthroughs or loud declarations of change. They are subtle shifts in understanding, moments where something suddenly makes sense in a deeper way. These insights may come from a single sentence, a brief reflection, or an unexpected realization during an ordinary moment. What makes them powerful is not their size, but their ability to alter how you see yourself, your choices, and your direction. Lasting change rarely comes from force, it comes from clarity. A small insight can dissolve years of confusion by revealing a truth you were previously avoiding or unaware of. When clarity appears, resistance weakens. You stop fighting yourself and start moving with intention. One simple realization, repeated and applied, can change habits that once felt permanent. The mind does not need overwhelming motivation. It needs understanding that feels true. Small insights work because they are manageable. They do not demand that you become someone new overnight. Instead, they invite you to adjust one thought, one behavior, one response at a time. This makes change feel possible rather than intimidating. When change feels possible, you are more likely to act. Action, even in small doses, builds momentum. Momentum builds belief. Belief sustains effort. A small insight might reveal that your problem is not lack of ability, but lack of consistency, or that your exhaustion comes from saying yes too often instead of honoring your limits, or that your fear is not protecting you, but keeping you stagnant. These realizations do not shout. They settle in quietly and begin to influence how you move through your day. You start making slightly better choices without forcing yourself. Over time, these choices accumulate. The mind learns through repetition, and small insights are easier to repeat. When you understand something deeply but simply, you can return to it again and again. Each time you remember it, it reinforces a new pattern of thinking. This repetition rewires your responses. Instead of reacting automatically, you pause. Instead of repeating old mistakes, you notice them sooner. Awareness grows not from intensity, but from consistency. Small insights also protect you from burnout. Big changes fueled by emotion often fade when motivation disappears, but insights rooted in understanding remain steady. Even on difficult days, you remember why you are doing what you are doing. This memory keeps you grounded. It allows progress to continue quietly, without the need for constant excitement or external validation. Lasting change is built into daily life through these small shifts. You begin to speak differently to yourself. You become more patient with the process. You stop expecting perfection and start valuing progress. This changes how you handle setbacks. Instead of quitting, you adjust. Instead of judging yourself, you learn. Growth becomes part of who you are rather than something you chase. Small insights also strengthen self-trust. Each time you apply one and see a positive result, even a minor one, your confidence grows. You begin to trust your judgment and your ability to change. This trust is essential because it reduces dependence on outside approval. You stop waiting for permission to improve your life. You move forward based on understanding rather than impulse. Over time, these insights shape identity. You are no longer defined by old habits or past failures. You are defined by awareness and intentional action. The person you become is not the result of one massive transformation, but the accumulation of many small realizations lived out daily. These insights influence how you manage your time, how you treat others, how you respond to pressure, and how you see your own potential. What begins as a small shift in perspective slowly changes the trajectory of your life. The direction moves steadily, almost invisibly, until one day you realize you are no longer where you used to be. The change feels natural because it was built patiently. Small insights do not demand immediate results. They work quietly, reshaping thoughts, habits, and choices over time, creating change that lasts because it is rooted in understanding rather than force, carried forward through awareness, consistency, and the willingness to listen when truth speaks softly. In a world that constantly demands movement, pausing feels unnatural, almost uncomfortable. Yet without pause, life becomes a blur of reaction rather than intention. You move from task to task, responsibility to responsibility, rarely asking why you are doing what you are doing. The pause is not weakness or delay, it is a moment of power where awareness returns. When you pause, you step out of noise and into clarity. You give yourself permission to observe instead of react. Reflection begins where pause exists. It is the quiet examination of your thoughts, actions, and direction. Reflection is not about judgment or regret, it is about honesty. You look at where you are without excuses and where you are going without illusion. Many people avoid reflection because it reveals misalignment. It shows when effort is being spent in the wrong direction or when values have been compromised for comfort or approval. But reflection is not meant to shame, it is meant to guide. When you reflect, patterns become visible. You start noticing cycles you repeat, decisions you avoid, and habits that drain your energy. You see how certain choices bring peace while others create tension. This awareness is essential because you cannot realign what you refuse to acknowledge. Reflection allows you to reconnect with your inner voice, the one that knows when something feels off long before the consequences appear. Realignment begins when reflection turns into intention. It is the process of adjusting your direction, not through force, but through clarity. You ask yourself what truly matters now, not what mattered in the past or what others expect from you. Purpose evolves as you grow, and realignment honors that growth. Holding on to outdated goals can be just as limiting as having no goals at all. Realignment is the courage to let go of what no longer fits. Pausing and reflecting creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, choice exists. Instead of reacting from habit or fear, you respond from understanding. This changes how you handle challenges. Problems become signals rather than obstacles. They point toward areas that need adjustment rather than reasons to quit. When purpose is clear, challenges lose their power to derail you. Realignment also restores energy. Misaligned effort is exhausting. When your actions contradict your values, resistance builds inside you. You feel tired even when you rest. But when purpose and action align, effort feels meaningful. Even difficult work becomes lighter because it serves something you believe in. Energy flows where alignment exists. This process is not dramatic or instant. It happens in quiet moments of awareness, a pause before reacting, a reflection after a difficult day, a small adjustment in how you spend your time. These moments accumulate. Over time, they reshape your life. You become more intentional, less scattered. Your decisions become simpler because they are guided by clarity rather than pressure. Realignment requires patience. You may not see immediate results, but you feel a sense of internal order returning. You trust yourself more because your actions match your values. This trust builds confidence that does not depend on outcomes. You know that even if progress is slow, it is honest. That honesty becomes your foundation. When you regularly pause and reflect, you stop living on autopilot. You stop measuring your worth by speed or comparison. You begin to value depth, direction, and integrity. Purpose is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you return to again and again, adjusting as you learn more about yourself. The ability to pause is a discipline. Reflection is a skill. Realignment is a choice. Together, they create a life that feels grounded rather than rushed. You move forward not because you are being pushed, but because you know where you are going and why each step matters. Allowing your actions to flow from intention instead of habit, from clarity instead of confusion, shaping a path that reflects who you are becoming rather than who you were conditioned to be. Regret is not born in a single moment. It is built quietly through hesitation, avoidance, and unspoken choices. It grows when life is lived on autopilot, when days pass without intention, and when potential is postponed for comfort. Living with intention means deciding again and again that your life is worth directing. It means choosing awareness over drifting and purpose over habit. Intention is not about controlling every outcome, but about showing up consciously in each moment. When you live without intention, decisions are made for you. Circumstances dictate your direction, emotions control your reactions, and fear limits your reach. You may stay busy, yet feel empty. You may achieve goals that do not fulfill you because they were never truly yours. Intention brings alignment. It reconnects actions with values and effort with meaning. When intention is present, Even small actions carry weight because they are chosen rather than automatic. Living with intention begins internally. It starts with understanding what matters to you, not what you were told should matter. This requires honesty and courage. You may discover that certain paths no longer fit who you are becoming. Letting go can be uncomfortable, but holding on to what feels wrong creates deeper regret. Intention invites you to adjust, not through pressure, but through truth. When your inner compass is clear, decisions become simpler. Intentional living also transforms how you experience time. Instead of rushing through days, you become present within them. Moments are no longer something to survive or escape. They become opportunities to practice awareness and growth. Presence deepens experience. You listen more fully, work more meaningfully, and rest more genuinely. Life feels fuller not because there is more happening, but because you are actually there for it. Choosing intention does not remove fear, but it changes your relationship with it. Fear becomes information rather than authority. You acknowledge it without letting it decide for you. Regret often comes from letting fear lead. Intention asks you to act in alignment with your values even when certainty is absent. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it. Each intentional step weakens the power of regret. Intentional living shapes identity. You become someone who acts with purpose rather than impulse. This builds self-respect. Each time you choose intentionally, you reinforce trust in yourself. Over time, this trust becomes confidence. You no longer need constant validation because your actions are rooted in personal integrity. Confidence built this way is quiet and steady, not dependent on approval or outcomes. Living with intention also influences how you handle mistakes. Instead of spiraling into self-blame, you learn from them. Mistakes become feedback, not identity. Because your choices are conscious, you can reflect, adjust, and continue without losing direction. Regret loses its grip when learning replaces judgment. Growth becomes continuous rather than conditional. Intentional living is not about perfection. It is about consistency. You will still face distractions, setbacks, and uncertainty. What changes is how you respond. You return to intention as an anchor. This return prevents long periods of drifting. It shortens the distance between awareness and correction. Over time, life becomes less reactive and more deliberate. When you live with intention, your life begins to reflect your values rather than your fears. You stop postponing what matters. You speak when it is uncomfortable, act when it is uncertain, and choose growth even when it demands effort. Regret fades not because life becomes easy, but because your actions feel honest. You know that you are participating fully in your own life, making choices with awareness, honoring your time, and shaping a future that feels true to who you are, moving forward with clarity, purpose, and the quiet confidence that comes from living on your own terms.